Okay, so let's start. Let's talk about paper IFUs. Let's talk about eIFUs and how to get rid of the paper version here, because of course we want to save money. Sean, that were very, very huge numbers, and I didn't even knew that the numbers are so high in that topic. So let's talk about this as well. And who's that? That's Bob. Let me introduce you to Bob. And Bob is a healthcare professional that you said 87% of those people are preferring the electronic IFU if it's available. But we also see the feedbacks that sometimes they struggle. They struggle because when do you actually read an instruction for use? It's not that often, I would say, as a professional. But if you want to read it, you have situations. Maybe you are before a surgery, or maybe this is a emergency. And what the people are struggling with is really, really bad readability for the instruction for use when on mobile phones. So it looks like scrolling to the right area and pinching and zooming, and the zoom stuff on the iPhone when this is needed. So this is a huge problem. But before we dive into that, I just wanted to point out the topics. When can you get rid of a paper-based iFU? So it needs to be for professional use, your medical device. So if there are any layperson involved, it's not possible in the EU. You need to check if the use of an eIFU does compromise user or patient safety. So it's a part of your risk management when you try to distribute that purely electronically. It needs to be accessible all the times, 24/7. I think it makes sense if there is no printout in the package. So it needs to be available 24/7. And of course, like the paper version, you need to update it if there are updates, but you also need to keep an archive and present it to the users. Maybe they have an older version of a device, and then they have to have the access to an older version of the instruction for use as well. If there is the urgent need of an individual that say, I need a paper-based IFU, then you need to provide it upon request. And this is funny because when you are accessing that via a, let's say, desktop computer, most of the people also have printers. So you can basically download it and print it out, but it's in the regulation that you need to send that over to them. You need to set up also internal processes, because you need to document how you manage the documentation, how you are dealing with that IT-wise and from the quality assurance perspective. And it's also necessary to, beside the availability in terms of IT security, also to prevent that someone that is not authorized log into your portal, change things or mess things up in the documents, and the end users then get confused or get simply the wrong documents or the wrong information. And this is also pretty funny. It must be intuitive and easy. And you remember Bob. So it's not always intuitive and easy. So in the last 7 years or so, we talked to manufacturers in regards of the electronic technical documentation. So this is where we originally coming from. But we also heard about the eIFU or IFU management. So the first thing that comes to mind is saving money, as you also indicated, Sean, on printing, storage, and packaging processes, because this is most of the time manual labor to box that IFU in the package. But it's also saving money on scrapping if you are doing a change, and then you need to scrap all the stuff that is in your storage. It's not only waste of money, the printing, but it also costs money for the scrapping itself. And what they said is also the saving money and time if you need to coordinate the changes of the IFUs. I wrote here IFU version versus the product version to match that in the production. But we also know manufacturers that have multi manufacturing plants all around the world, and then you need to manage and coordinate all the changes when there is a new IFU, scrapping, and when do I need to put what in the packages. So this is also a huge lift from regulatory, but also from the shop floor management in the production units. Well, avoiding packaging problems, that was a surprise that I heard last year, I think, due to a very, very large IFU that was a really large booklet, and they shipped that in a container together with a sterile packaging, and they had problems with the validation, transportation validation, because the IFU was damaging the sterile barrier of the original product. So they are looking very, very forward to really replace the complete printed IFU and replace it by an electronic version. And by the way, it's not only that they can throw away the paper version, they also will smaller or downsize the packaging of the device, because the packaging of the device was larger due to the IFU, not the device itself. That was a really funny one. Yeah, there is, of course, the urge to comply with EU MDR. We all know the passage that if you have a website as a manufacturer and you have this instruction for use, then you need to also make it available on your website. So this is also a point. And not the last point, I think this is should be more on the top here of the list. It's the impact on environment situation and the burden on hospitals, because the Medical Mountains Association here in Germany, together with MedTech Europe, they also pointed out that all the IFUs that were sent into hospitals, they got stored in rooms, and they also needs to be scrapped somehow. So there are costs and handling costs on the hospital side. Okay, so let's have a closer look on that topic, not only from the paper perspective and the electronic perspective, but on the complete process. And to start that, we need to zoom out a little bit where everything starts. And everything starts, of course, in the development process, where you have your R&D team and all the stakeholders, where they are defining risk management, defining the information that you need to manage and eventually provide to your end users. You have the regulatory process that is providing also information about the pictos and about information needs to be placed on the label and on the IFU itself. You have the label department that are then managing this kind of information to put that on paper, or let's say in InDesign, or some are using also Word files to design the IFUs. So this is a process. And then you have the approval of that. And sometimes this is also cycling back, because the people that approve the data upstream are seeing and reviewing the data on the final artworks, and then it's got recycled back. So this is also a topic for itself, but not for today. And then you have eventually the printing process and the storage and handling by the end of the day. So we want to get rid of printing and storage handling. So this is totally clear. But what to do? When we are using eIFU websites for that, then we have another burden on the regulatory department or the label department. It depends on the structures of the company, because you need to handle as well this stuff. So if there is something new in the development process, risk management get revised, we have new warnings, and we need to place it on the IFU, then you have to do the artwork, and then if it's approved, you have to manage that on the website itself. And don't forget about Bob, because he's still struggling in reading this paper-based versions, reading on his iPhone. And that's why we started this process. We got punched by our customers and say, well, we are managing already so much digitally, and we don't want to do that the same way for the instructions for use. And they say, okay, we did our evaluation, and we will start to do something about it. And what we ended up with is we started to rethink eIFU as the process, but we also started to rethink IFU as the medium how we use it today in this paper versions. And I want to show you both processes that we went through. And we will start with the rethinking eIFU process. So it's clear we get rid of the printing and of the handling. But what the people told us, and the manufacturers and experts, is they tried homebrew solutions by their IT teams and stuff like that. So they had also the manual burden in managing the stuff, and it was also very expensive. eIFU platforms, as we started to look at it, seems also very expensive in return what they are actually doing. I mean, they are doing the management and the distribution of PDF files right now. So it doesn't sound like a really rocket science here. But despite of the fact that the technologically stuff is easy, they are very expensive. And we have a lot of small manufacturer clients that are also asking us, how shall we deal with that? Because we don't want to spend that much money on a solution, but we want to get rid of the printed IFUs. And of course, the manual handling is something that was discussed. And there is Bob again. I think that Bob is really having a hard time in understanding what he's reading there in this IFU. So we're talking about the usability for healthcare professionals. Okay, so if we want to get rid of this manual handling, we need to introduce a technology that is automating eIFU handling. And this is placed then not on top of the regulatory people or the label department. It needs to be placed directly at the approval step. So when you are approving new instructions for use in your company, then it needs to be a workflow that this is automatically handed over to the eIFU platform that is then distributing this information. So we're talking here about a complete autopilot setting. So this is the pilot stuff again. So autopilot stuff when there is a new IFU released by the regulatory department, or however the regulatory workflow is handled in the company. So this is number one, how we are rethinking the eIFU process itself. But we don't stop here, because we have other options due to digital options that we have. The technology is evolving so fast nowadays. So rethinking the IFU itself, getting rid of paper-based layouts and artworks for our end users, we want to have something like responsive designs. So when the healthcare professional is looking at it, it doesn't matter if this is a phone, if this is a tablet, or if the healthcare professional is sitting in front of a desktop computer. The content is presented in a nice way, searchable way, and stuff like that. So he gets or she gets very fast to the information they need in this moment. And we know sometimes it's maybe an emergency and they need to get this information very fast. So when we are looking at a print version of an instruction for use, we have a layout, and this layout is containing a lot of information. And most of the time, it got copy and pasted out of development documentation by the artwork team. Some are using maybe ALM, PLM solutions where you have content, and they try to automate that with InDesign servers, XML, and stuff like that. Because all the stuff that we are looking at here now is kind of content where not only the R&D department, QM, or RA department and label department are interested in. We are talking here about single source of truth like stuff. And that's why our clients started to nudge out and say, please do something about that, go in this direction. Because if we have a single source of truth about our devices and everything is in place, then we can take this information and automate it in a way that the user, the end user, the healthcare professional basically, is reading this information and don't have to pinch and look at PDF files that were designed. I mean, many years ago, these tools were designed to print the stuff and not to put it on a screen or a smartphone, so small screen. Not talking about Apple Watches, but iPhone-sized screens. So when we are rethinking this, it's really important that we are engaging in a thinking where we can place the data in content. And if we have content, you can think about it like if there is a content change because of risk or a warning that is added to the data, and the development regulatory department will introduce that data here, then this data is already staged for publishing on the eIFU portal. So if the approval workflows run through, then this information is revised and getting published to the healthcare professionals, and they can read it, and they can get maybe a notification or something like that, that something changed. And this is a really, really digital content to content workflow without having all these single steps in breaking the software and programs we are using from ALMs to Word, from Word to InDesign, but from a really content-based end-to-end process, delivering this information to the end user. And why I'm talking about also about that, because the numbers Sean presented to us were really impressive. And this numbers based on a workflow that I showed earlier, where I have the information in a single system and then translated into an artwork, doing the approval, and then translated into an eIFU platform. So if this process is already giving you so much more resources or enabling this new resources or saving money, then going to a complete content-based eIFU publishing will free up even more time. We know that from our clients that are using our ETD solutions, and they are reporting us more than 50% time advantage in technical documentation management. And if you take that numbers and pour it here on the eIFU process, you can feel or you can think about what is possible even more beyond the numbers that Sean presented to us. Well, this would be, of course, a process that everyone is dreaming of, and this will open up new possibilities, not only for the manufacturers and save time and money, but also to enhance the usability for the healthcare professionals. And I think this is something when 70 or 87% of the professionals are preferring the eIFU and got not presented in a really bad usability and readability of a PDF, but the information got presented to them in a nice way with a lot of options to search and to browse and stuff like that. This will also enhance the happiness of using and instruction for use for the healthcare professionals. So yes, please.
I want you to breathe first.
Yes.
Of all. I'm worried about your breathing. So I want to stop here and open it up a little bit to the audience and say, do you see the benefit in this for yourselves or for your clients or, what have you? Also, there's an interesting question, which is, would this software that you're talking about coded for this data repository be treated as software as a medical device itself? My personal opinion on that is no, because it's not for the treatment, diagnosis, or cure of a disease. Therefore, it does not meet the definition of software as a medical device. I would defer to the regulatory experts in the room on that. And then there were a couple comments. Daniel had a couple comments, which I'm going to let him ask out loud or comment. And then any other comments from the audience are welcome at this time before we go into the learnings.
Yeah. So this is Dan. My first comment to your last statement is that that software, the information that would provide would be an extension of the product labeling. So some way, somehow, it would have to be regulated as labeling as an extension of the label of the product. So I would expect that we would have to do all the sort of validation
Mm-hmm.
and verification work that we would do to predicate rule paperwork, because the IFU,
Mm-hmm.
it may be in an electronic form. It's not accompanying the product, but it's intended to supplement the work that you do for the product. So
Yes.
from my perspective, I would say that we definitely would have to comply with specific expectations for labeling, to say the least. So that's my comment. The second comment is really around the mindset that I have, that you've been talking, Michael, about the healthcare professionals, but a lot of IFUs are actually also intended for end users, the patients, for
Yes.
a number of medical devices. So I was just thinking about to what extent we could envision eventually an AI-based IFU. I would call it the iIFU, where
Mm-hmm.
there will be an interactivity between
Mm-hmm.
the patient and the IFU, where I am not just reading the IFU, but I'm listening to it. And in listening to it, I may even at a certain point say, I need a clarification on this. Because
Yeah.
I think the possibilities are just infinite. Any comments from you on that?
Yeah, sure. So, as we thought about the design of the Meddevo eIFU platform, the LLM, or let's say generally AI, was of course a topic, and started from, okay, maybe we can have a chatbot so you can actually talk to that and ask questions and so on, to using Gemini or OpenAI models to have also the voice part of that. And I love that idea. And of course, in the beginning, you are focusing on the let's say on the minimal viable things that you want to that you want to fix to the platform that you are envision. But this is something that we have on our paper, on our list, because we think that this is breaking the barrier, or opening a new dimension for patients or even healthcare professionals that simply want to chat with an instruction for use. And we think that multimedia, like introducing also of videos and audio beside AI, is something that makes it really, really modern and a digital way to transport this information.
And the last point, then, Martin, I'll let you go in a second. The last point is, I like the openness of the regulatory authorities, but we still cannot forget that there will be certain regulatory requirements associated with everything that we do. So we really have to make sure that not only we can manage and command the technical aspects of what we want to do, but that those technical activities are actually compliant with the GXP regulations that will be applicable to those activities that we manage.
Yes. Amen to that.
Martin, and then
So
Luke.
if I've understood correctly, we're really talking about cross-media IFU. So the issue really is that we're in a sort of world, a very fluid world, where people expect to be able to download something and see it. And we really need to be able to, and whether it's a talking IFU or a video IFU, whatever, we need to be able to make sure that we communicate somewhere, whether it's on the packaging or wherever it is, what device you can view it on. You know, the Apple Watch was a classical example, right? I think this is a classical labeling. We still have all the labeling issues, right? Like when you have something draft and you're submitting it and you want to move from draft to non-draft as soon as possible after you've got approval, or you have the issue of RUOs in the market and they're turning into IVDs, for example. And so those issues don't really go away. Those challenges don't go away. But I think the key challenge in our fluid world is communicating to the user whether it's a tiny text underneath a QR code or whatever it is, that gives them a guarantee that they know that there's at least one device out there that they can view this on.
Mm-hmm. Michael, what do you think about that?
Yeah, so especially the extended labeling topic, I was listening closer because I started 15 years ago at Fresenius and regulatory in the label department. And I think that we have so many options today, and we are inventing stuffs. I mean, every day there is a new idea and gets developed, and the regulators will look closer to that. And as long as we are taken into account, like the ISOs and all the requirements that we have, then we can shape something, and we can wait for the regulators to, let's say, speak up if there is something that we need to do better in this direction. But when we are talking about the content-based, especially the thing that I'm showing here, from the perspective of a eIFU platform, the platform is only there for the distribution of information. The validity or the integrity of the data, of course, needs to be preserved. So when we are talking about this data, I am assuming that this data comes from an regulated or controlled environment. So like now I am approving a document to release it. I need to approve and release the data before it's got published. So I think that this is an analogy how we are handle documents and how we are dealing with and handling data by the end of the day. And it needs to be the same, like records or the approval of records according to 21 part 11. So this needs to be the same. And if the data is coming from a validated system and is handed over to a eIFU distribution platform that is also validated, then I see this, I see it as a no problem. But if we are introducing this kind of multimedia thing, let's take maybe the idea of the chatbot. I don't think that you can use simply the general OpenAI or Gemini model for that, because hallucination is still a thing among the AI. So if the patient is asking something, you need to be 100% sure that the information that is going out is really the thing that the patient needs to hear, and not misusing the device or misconfiguring the device. And this is a potential harm, but this should be covered by your risk management by the end of the day, I would assume. So I think this is a really, really interesting area where we're stepping in when we are talking about cross media data that we want to transport to the professionals or to the patients. Of course, if it's lay person, you need to have also the printed stuff, but it's nice to play around these ideas. But this is opening more and more risk-related issues and stuff like that. So I think that this is the beginning of a really interesting journey about that topic.
Great. Luke, you had a comment or question?
Oh, I have 4 points. Hi, Michael. Interesting presentation. As you know, as I know, that the thing with IFUs is that if everything else fails, read the manual. So
Yeah.
to throw it away on the first occasion. You mentioned correctly that upon request, at least a paper version must be available.
Yes.
Excuse me. But that means that either you have to have a very smart editing system that can spit out your electronic form for iPads and your paper form, or you're maintaining 2 different versions, which is not very nice. So I expect that in one of your next slides, you see a very clever editing system. And also, at least for our product, the IFUs are on the critical component list from the notified body. That means that if you do make a change in it, you always have to at least report it to the notified body or ask for permission, which is very, very, at least it takes some time and it takes some effort. So the danger of having a very agile system for editing your manuals very quickly is that people are getting used to editing it very quickly. Well, for each step, you still have to go to the notified body. So I guess that's the danger in using that. And there's a point I would like to mention is that at least in Udamed, there's an option for adding a URL for your product in there, which can point to your electronic IFU on your site. And if you make that URL always say the latest version, or a landing page where you can choose your version for the IFU, that would make it very valuable. You scan your UDI label on the back of your device, and you can instantly get a referral to your IFU, which would be very handy. But the last thing I would like to mention is that because there's so much regulatory burden, as Daniel Barreto pointed out, for us it's, I guess, easier to make a IFU that's a little bit fixed, that passes all requirements and doesn't change too often. And on the side, have instructional videos on how to use your product. You still have to be careful with all your marketing outlets, because it still is considered labeling, I guess, but it gives you more freedom in how to express the things that are important, because in your IFU, there's this list of mandatory things that clutter up the things you really want to say. And in instructional video, you're more free to show what's really important and prevent the mistakes that people make usually with your product. Okay, there were 4 points. Can you comment on that, please?
Thank you. So if this is okay, Sean, maybe I can show a practical example about these points.
Let's move.
Okay, so before I will go on with the slides, let me simply share something with you, because I think that we need to clarify on that. Can you see my entire screen now?
Yeah.
Okay, so
it's blurred, but yes.
But you can see my screen.
Yeah, I can see it.
Oh, 1 second. I think I need to click on share now. Now you should see my entire screen.
Yep.
Okay, so when we're talking about this database symbol here, what I talked about prior to you, look, thank you for these questions and remarks. I'm talking about a single source of truth manner. So it doesn't matter if you are using our ETD tool for the electronic technical documentation or you have other tools in place. So when you are changing things, and let me quickly bring up our ETD here. When you are changing things, everything is subjected to audit trailing. So when I'm looking here at a product that I want to investigate here, I have here the 2.6 as a version, and maybe I change something about the intended purpose, or I added intended users, or as in my example, I added maybe a warning. So when we are at the process and adding stuff to our product that is then reflected in the IFU, you have the regulatory process prior to that. So you are changing information in your product, and then you need to, of course, approve that information and then give it over to your notified body for the approval or for the review or whatever. And at this point, when you got this information approved and everything is okay, then you move on with the process to hand over this information to the eIFU. Or in nowadays, you would go to your artwork department and say, please update the IFU according to this project. So this is what I'm talking single source of truth, because if I have that, then this change can be then reflected in the IFU platform, where I have then my documents, for instance, for my infusion set, and I have my versions with all the languages, the status, and everything. So you have all the stuff then here. So it's really, really version controlled on the data side and also then on the eIFU side. So there is no break in the process. The second part of your remarks was, if I am managing this thing on content level, then of course, if I need to provide a IFU, this content, since this is a responsive design solution, you can create an A4 or letter size printout of the instruction for use for the persons, but still be in this content-based management of the information. So there is no redundancy between creating a print version of an IFU and maintaining a content-based version of the IFU. This is entirely taking place in one system, and there are no differences between this. And since you are talking about the Udemy section, so when you are managing the products, you have a evergreen link, which is also, I read that in the comments here, also as a QR version. So when you are looking at this QR code or taking a link, you have an evergreen link that is taking the user or the Udemy user to the area where the documents live. And when the user, and I do not have a QR code reader here on my desktop, but when I am scanning that or clicking the Udemy link, I will get here to this evergreen link to my product, and I have the overview of all my languages and also the all the versions for what I talked about, the archive option that you need to have in doing that. And then you can simply go inside that and then looking at the stuff. So this is just as a practical example how this might look like, because I think it's too abstract when talking about data and how this is connected, or how to imagine that when talking about this icon with this database here. I hope that was okay for you, Luc.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah.
It looks a bit like a system we designed once for a ship towing company. They had boats and they had crews, and they had like equipment on that boats, and they all had certifications and that kind of stuff, and diplomas, and they had it in a database. And when they had to spit out what was available, they could you could have it on an A4 with the current equipment, the current available crew, that kind of stuff. So it looks a bit the same. You have all kind of regulatory required parts, and you just can put it together the minute you like it.
Yes, but, it's like reusing of content.
You had a link to the IFU via the how do you call it, the URL, but is then the front end separated from the publishing end, because you don't want to have people going into your back end?
Of course. So you have a complete backend area where the complete management takes place, where you have the print requests that the people are requesting from the site, audit logs and everything, and settings for the workspace for the public page and everything. So this is a area where only the administrators or the managers of that application have access, and then you have the public page, and the public page is completely separated from this area, of course.
How do you do the version control? Like, say someone's printing, we want to make sure that, you know, sometimes you don't have the most, you know, employees that pay the most attention, so they might just click on something. So how is that version control in place?
Yeah, so we have here when one second, when do you mean the public or do you mean the managers?
Both. So the public, I feel like you resolved that question with the public one, because you only have, like, you can just enable it in the public side, but for the versioning control for the managers, to make sure that they have the iteration?
So it's not possible to upload the same version of the same document. The management takes place a little bit different than in a document management. Let's talk about like a SharePoint, because IFUs are different, right? We have versions and we have languages sometimes. That's why we came up with an idea that you are not uploading simply a document, but you are creating a document set. And this document set, where you say, this is my IFU or whatever I want to publish for ABC, and then I can define for what kind of products this is applicable. And then I'm creating this set where I can add my files. I can add the English version. I can have maybe a version that is containing 4 languages. And this is everything then contained with versioning, with the publishing date. And I can also bulk import stuff. So, and the system is then recognizing in the files if this is a version 3, if this is a version 4, or the publishing date. And with that options, you can also then tell the people, tell the system what kind of languages are in there if it's not automatically checked from the document. And with that system, you are managing it really, really, let's say, guided by the system. So you're not able to do that many errors in terms of version control, because the system will give you the heads up. And also, when we are looking then on the public side, we have a clear indicator when clicking here that this is an older version. And also when you are looking at that, you get the information that this is an older version you are looking at. So this is, let's say, risk controlled by design of the system.
Okay, thank you. Follow-up question. I just completed this large Kappa program, Kappa project for a global med device company that's based in the US that had, multiple languages and everything for their IFUs. My question is, they use Agile, Oracle, and and they upload their IFUs into that. Is there an API, or how does this work with Agile, if any? Anyway.
Yeah. So right now, what we are integrating is the eIFU connection to our ETD solution that I showed you a couple minutes ago. So this is this solution here. But there will be a REST API so that you can use also Meddevo eIFU platform without being Meddevo ETD client. So this is on our roadmap. It was not the first feature, but it is on our roadmap because we know that there is no one solution fits it all. So that's why there will be an API for that.
That's great. So one thing that I would like to point out is that a large reason for this group to exist is so that we can help each other. I firmly believe that products like this one, like Meddevo, get adopted when they're walked in the door by people that are already trusted by the client. So a lot of you are consultants on this call, and you have the opportunity to say to your clients, I saw an interesting solution from an interesting company that could help you. Now, that gives you the opportunity to help Michael, but it also gives you the opportunity to help yourself. That when we create a network of connections with one another, and we're able to provide introductions to people who are able to solve problems that as a solo consultant or a consultancy, we're not able to solve on our own, we're able to provide a partnership network to one another. And so I would invite Michael to say, is there any way that the people on this call can work with Meddevo, can learn more about the products and solutions that Meddevo offers, and is there anything in it for them if they do? To put it rudely.
Yes, I have it. I think on this or on the next slide. So since we are running out of time, so I just don't want to miss that. So let me briefly tell you about our learning. So what we learned in this couple months is that if there is a solution that we are building, it needs to be cost effective, because a lot of solutions have like caps on documents and products when you are introducing that to them. So it's very, very expensive. So it needs to be a cost effective and also affordable for small manufacturers. And you need to have a fast onboarding, no long projects and whatever, IT and so on. It needs to be really, really fast. And the best self-service. And it needs to have a high degree of automation already with the PDF stuff that we talked about to have that automation already. And it needs to be future-proofed in terms of content-based methods to go this direction, to content-based or cross-media. I like the word cross-media distribution for the eIFUs or IFU information. Well, if we do that, then I think we can make the not only the manufacturers happy in terms of cost saving, but also the healthcare professional. And now to the point that you pointed out, Sean, we have this eIFU platform now on early access. So in a couple of days, there will be an early access to the platform. And we added a free forever plan for small manufacturers. So if you are a small manufacturer and only need to handle a couple of IFUs, you can go with the free plan, and there will be no string attached. So it's really, really free, and there will be no charge at all. And for the early access people, we will have a thank you, which is a promo code for the first 6 months to have it for the paid plans. And you can reach this by meddevo.com/eIFU. And what we also did is we created a partner program. This is the first partner program, let's say, for an individual product here for the eIFU, which is eIFU partner program. And there you can apply to our affiliate program for the eIFU platform, because this is a product that is designed for self-service to really, really fast distribution. And in this program, we want to share this with our partners to if they share it with their clients and they become our clients, so they will be also commission fees or commission payments that we will do. And beside of that, we have also a partner program for our electronic technical documentation for the ETD platform. So if you're interested also to know more about the ETD solution, feel free to reach out to me or our team, and we can share information how the partner program is a little bit more factors to the ETD partner program than for the eIFU. The eIFU is pretty straightforward. And yeah, so that would be what I have brought for you that are consultants or freelancers here.
That's awesome.
And that's it from my side.